We will have another gentleman speaking on importance of collaboration after lunch. Right now, though, we do have someone who's going to talk about one of the most important things. We've discussed grit, we've discussed passion, but the other thing that you do need is also to be disruptive. You can't really go with the flow and expect to do something very different. You have to really shake things up, and that's what our next speaker is going to be talking about. He will highlight the importance of being disruptive and having a disruptive mind so you can succeed, especially in a competitive market. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Imran Aftab.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. Great to be here. I'm a Karachi boy, so it's great to be back in my hometown. I am the co-founder CEO of 10 Pearls. We help businesses transform, disrupt, innovate. I personally spend a lot of my time with corporate executives through their digitalization, digital transformation journey. And in our free time, we look at impact investments. We have a small arm called 10 Pearls Ventures, and we look at startups, founders who are trying to make a change, especially in health, education, and energy with the application of emerging technologies. So think artificial intelligence, machine learning, augmented reality, blockchain. I'm a scientist by education, a chemical physicist, so this thing gets me worked up. So, disruption has been going on for hundreds of years, right? And it's only now that experts have been trying to understand what causes a disruption. I am very interested in this topic, and I just spent a whole week with Singularity University a couple of weeks ago back in the Bay Area. And I was blessed to speak with Ray Kurzweil, Peter Diamandis, David Roberts, who pretty much inspired this presentation. And it's now only that people are looking at what are the exponential technologies and factors that cause disruption. So I wanted to sort of frame this concept with using some examples, specifically the spice industry. We're in the land of spices, so why not? Let's talk about the spice industry. So this is, by the way, the spice industry, is extremely old, 4,000 plus years. But this is the route that the traditional sort of spice industry took. If you notice, the Europeans were coming by sea and then by land to have access to spices which are in India and China. And of course, you see Tangier, which is part of Marrakesh. Marrakesh means the furthest west. Morocco at one time was the most civilized and most modern countries of the world, because everything beyond that, west of that, wasn't, civilized or modern. But if you look at the spice industries, 4,000 plus years, and spice used to be traded at 5 times gold. Why? Because of a myth. The myth was that spices cause food to preserve food, to not rot. But in reality, actually, it's not true. Sodium chloride, salt, yes. But it just makes, rotten food taste better, perhaps. And a lot of sort of the infrastructure innovations around shipping were, helping, society progress, which is the foundation of what Industrial Revolution sort of, took place. But until one man. Do you know who that man was? Anybody who disrupted this? Some crazy guy thought that he could go the other way around. Right? Instead of going from Europe east to Asia, he could go other way around. Because he thought that that's where India or China lied. Right? Of course, he had no idea about, the circumference of the earth. But this entrepreneur is Christopher Columbus. All right? So just like any crazy entrepreneur, he goes up to the kings and queens of his time and asks for money. And what did they do? They called their scientific advisors and said, this guy is crazy, absolutely nuts. There's no way he could do this. Except, there's always one, except the king of Spain. Why? Because Spain was in debt. right? And they said, you know what, desperate, let's do whatever we can to, try our lucks. And lo and behold, he took his trip. Now, the story is that Columbus wasn't completely stupid. He knew something about weather, right? He knew how to sort of get to where he wanted to go and come back. Sometimes it takes sort of navigating the latitudes to catch the wind back, right? And guess what? He didn't get a single spice. What did he get? Anybody knows what he got? He didn't find spice. He found something else. No takers? Huh? Gold. I heard gold. Yeah, he found gold. And he brought enough gold to pay off the debt of Spain. Right? Remarkable. Now, it's interesting, right? A lot of entrepreneurs get lucky. But this is a quote that I like to use. It's a Roman philosopher attributed to him. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Right? If you look at these companies and these products, what's common in these products and companies? Anybody? The end product or company isn't what the entrepreneurs were trying to achieve. For example, Google. They just wanted to build an engine to sell to Yahoo. Yahoo didn't buy, and then they had to list everything, and the business evolved. Of course, they've invested and innovated quite tremendously. Or Coca-Cola, for example. A pharmacist wanted to, cure headaches. He was mixing cola nuts with cocoa leaves, with carbonated water by mistake, and it became a great drink. He died 2 years later than that, so he didn't get to sort of, reap the benefits. And afterwards, we'll talk about how to make Viagra. Frederick Tudor. This is the guy, right, who really disrupted the spice industry. Columbus, what he did was he changed the infrastructure around shipping, right? But this guy was a brilliant guy, right? He used to cut ice from Massachusetts and supply it, store it in warehouses, and supply it. And he had a crazy idea. He says, why don't I take this ice to the Caribbeans and sell it and make a fortune? Again, he gets on his enterprise and goes and talks to investors, and people say, you're nuts, but you know what? It's a great idea. Let's do it. And guess what happens? The ice does not make it. His ice melts. In fact, he was in so much debt, they had to send him to debtor's prison. We should have a prison for a lot of people here in Pakistan who have taken a lot of money and haven't returned. But he didn't give up, just like any entrepreneur, right? He said one more time, and he again went to other investors. He first escaped from the debtor's prison, went and raised more money, and this time he created insulated walls with sawdust in between, and he took really good care, and he made it. And you know what? 1/3 of the ice melted only. He made a great fortune. Again, paid off all his debts, and hence started the ice industry. It is ironic that ice started going all the way to India to help them preserve food, right? And he still has apparently a house in Chennai, which is named after him, but he was supplying ice. And by the way, if I asked you, so with all the changes in shipping, etc., how many people you think, went from the spice industry to the ice industry? Who thinks it's 50%? Show of hands. Well, everybody's hungry, I guess. Nobody's participating. It's always fun to be between lunch and reality. How many people think it was 100%, 20%? All right? The answer is 0. And we'll get to why. Until refrigeration, right, came up. This is AI, artificial ice. Today's AI. And despite the fact that people are saying this ice is not good for you, people start buying this. And manufacturers came up, they would build refrigeration plants, and they would ship them to the rest of the world. Right? Of course, you can imagine sort of what kind of improvements in shipping this brought up, right? And so people would have plants, and ice would be supplied to houses. I don't know how many of you remember buying ice, from the local vendor. I grew up, yes, absolutely. I used to go buy ice, haul it up the stairs to my, my apartment for the family. Great experience. No. And then, of course, refrigeration, right? Now you have your own artificial ice maker. Now, if I asked you, how many people you think went from the spice industry to the ice industry? 0. How many from there to the refrigeration industry? Any guesses? 20%? 0%? 0%. 0%. All right? How many went from there to refrigeration? Right? It's amazing. It's phenomenal. Even in the shipping industry, the players who were there did not make it. Why? The reason is because they were focused on their product and not really understanding what the market dynamics were. Right? And the technologies that were coming up weren't meant to solve this issue. Like somebody wasn't trying to create, right, this innovative machine, which is, pressure, etc., all this, science behind it to help solve the ice problem. Right? The application of it came later. So who do you think is disrupting the refrigeration industry? By the way, this industry is also getting disrupted. Quick factoid, it took 20 years, right, to disrupt the spice industry. Right? People knew that was coming. That's like Elon Musk is trying to disrupt and has disrupted, automobiles. People thought, oh, he's crazy. Electric vehicles, lithium-ion battery can never scale. He's done it. Right? 20 years, and the price of spice came down 100 times. 100 times. The refrigeration industry took 10 years only. 10 years only. 20 to 10. And despite that, people have all this vision, they could not act. So there's a lot of thoughts behind who's going to disrupt the refrigeration industry. Of course, if anybody's tried soy milk or regular milk that has sort of been irradiated to kill all the bacteria, I don't think it's good because the bacteria is good for your stomach. Uber Eats. There are, within an hour, Amazon and Uber Eats can get you food in densely populated areas like San Francisco, New York City, right? But a lot of bets being taken with Amazon drones. And the studies were showing that people are already downsizing their fridges or completely unplugging it. Remember back in the day, you get milk every day? Fresh milk delivered to you? It's a possibility. So what's causing sort of these rapid changes? And you cannot walk away from this conference not appreciating the concept of exponential technologies. Right? I'm a scientist by education. I was learning how to make gallium arsenide semiconductors, which was going to replace silicon. Right? Anybody heard of Moore's Law? Moore's Law says that the number of transistors in a microchip will double every 2 years, and the cost will go down. That means inevitably everything will come down. So with the cost of computing coming down like a rock, right, you've got a number of levers and factors that are taking over and transforming the world. These technologies have been what we call democratized and demonetized, right? But smart devices, we'll talk about AI, 5G, Isfandiar talked about getting connectivity to all of Pakistan, great. In 2017, right, we have half the world connected. In another 5 years, 100% of the world connected. Right? SpaceX, Elon Musk's company, just announced 30,000 satellites he's going to send up, the orbit. Amazon said we'll do 20,000. Everybody, Google is looking at investing in that. Of course, robotics, 3D printing, biotechnology. Don't ignore that. There are a lot of things that are happening around synthetic biology that is going to completely revolutionize our world. And we cannot see it because we're seeing the world with a linear mindset. Right? The difference between a linear mindset and exponential mindset, if I ask you, hey, take linear steps. 30 steps, one step is 1 meter, get you 30 meters. Exponential steps. You take a step, the next step is 2, 4, 8, 16. 30 steps will get you how far? How far? How many things it'll take us out of this galaxy? Well, I'll give you the answer. I know you guys are hungry. It is 1 billion meters. 3 times or 2.5 times between back and forth between the Earth and the Moon. 25 times around the circumference of the Earth. That's what the power of exponential technologies are. And this is, to me, the most, not just to me, to all the experts, the most critical thing that's going to change the world. If you are a scientist and computer science, you just hit the lottery. If you know linear algebra, you just hit the lottery. You just have to apply and make the connection. Remember, the wheel wasn't the most sort of innovative thing. The wheel existed for a while. In the Stone Ages, they had round stones. It was the axle that made the connection, right? The scientists in the room, they have a leg up. They can understand this, but this is tremendously taking, it's like, people have been saying that this is like adding electricity to manual processes. Back in the day, you would whip an egg with a fork or something, and imagine you have an egg beater, right? Who has seen the video on YouTube? If you haven't, go see it. The video of a robot, an artificially intelligent robot, solving the Rubik's Cube. Anybody seen it? Yes. It takes about 4.3 seconds for a human to solve it, a kid who's really bright. 0.7 seconds for a robot. Right? You've all seen the Boston Dynamics and robotics videos of these robots. Why do you think they are improving? Is it the hardware? Absolutely not. It's the software. Now you can model all the computations behind it and map out all the probabilities, which brings you up to quantum computing, right? If you don't know about quantum computing, go learn about it. Quantum computing does not operate on the principles of silicon computing. Silicon computing is based on 1 zeros, right? Transistors, capacitors. Quantum computing works on probabilities. And it's not the right forum to explain to you, but it has an exponential function on how much power you have for computing. So how fast is the market moving? In the 1920s, right, the average lifespan of an S&P 500 company was how long? 65 years. 65 years, okay? Today, 15 years only. There are companies here that were not even there. The companies who made from the last decade to this decade have been investing like crazy. Right? Google buying Fitbit, very interesting what happened. Facebook picking up Oculus. They're coming up with the whole thing on virtual reality, augmented reality, Second Life concept. Fantastic. If they take off, Libra, if it takes off, cryptocurrency on Facebook, game-changing. Again, depends on regulators allowing that or not. But if you look at this, 80% of these companies are technology or platforms. You can argue Visa is a data company. They pitch themselves as a data company, right? In fact, an IDC study came out yesterday. I was reading about it. They're saying the Global 2000 Index, right, will have 60% of the companies that have an ecosystem, right? 2/3 of large enterprises will become software developers, software producers. They'll be checking in code every day. Because if they're not, they're extinct. They're done. So what does it need? Where do you start? A negative mindset will not get you anywhere. And I went through that journey myself. I was 19 when I left Pakistan on a scholarship to go study. And I had no idea. I was studying chemistry and, no clue. And then I reached a stage where I was the head of global outsourcing transformation at AOL Time Warner, flying around the world and managing all this work. And on the weekends, we would get together with all the friends and family, and we would just, be frustrated about Pakistan. We'd be complaining, right? Hey, Pakistan doesn't do anything, etc. So what I did was, I said, you know what? I'm done with this, and I'm going to do something about it. And people who want to join me, join me. Otherwise, I'm going to extricate myself from this negative mindset and surround myself with some great mentors who think positive. First thing you do is you reject status quo. Then you have conviction. You have to believe yourself that you can really do this, right? Muhammad Ali did not become a champion. He convinced himself first that he was a champion until he became a champion. He said he was the best, remember? So you have to have conviction. And then you have to find what you really love. Singularity University guys, Peter Diamandis, etc. Call them the massively transformative purpose. What is your purpose in life? I found mine. I wanted to create opportunities in Pakistan. I wanted to show the world that, yes, when I was at AOL and I had, in Philippines and India and Argentina, that Pakistan was great. 220 million people, one-third, the third largest English-speaking country in the world. We have the best programmers, right? So I wanted to truly change that perception through business. And then you have the wheel and axle moment. My training as a scientist and my work as in product management, investment banking, and then now transformation allowed me to connect the dots. And then you build a team. You find other people you can convince who are crazy as you are. In my case, I found my brother. It's great that he's younger than me, that he listens to me, but it can be a challenge running a family business sometimes. Don't recommend to everybody. The geography helped us. And then you change the playing field. People used to say Pakistan is not possible, the geographic risks are tremendous, and I said, you know what? I took a bet. I said Pakistan or the geographic risk are not going to be as important. What's going to be important is the risk of not delivering, right? Of not going forward. And I said, because all the sort of saturation happening in all the countries, Pakistan is an opportunity. So I start turning, Pakistan as an advantage. You can imagine the first customer I went to. They're like, what? Are you crazy? Right? What's going to happen? But now it's easy because we have some of the largest, unicorns and wonderful brands working with us. In fact, they recommend other companies. So you got to change the playing field. And then you reinvent continuously. Reinvent. We are not the same company when we started, initially. We're a much different company. We had to invest in our people. We had to build labs, innovative labs to help sort of continue to recruit the best people, a university, focus on women. 30-40% of our developers are women. But you have to really invest in it. And then, of course, you stay true to the mission. I'd like to end here. I love Wasim Akram. I'm a cricket player. I played professionally. But this guy rocks the world. Pele. Who's seen the movie Pele? If you have not, go see. Yes, the Jenga, right? How he learned. Success is no accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, sacrifice, and most of all, love of what you're trying to do. Without love, there's nothing. Thank you very much.